Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. Today, I'd like to talk about the specific period of history that I focus on and explain why it holds such a strong appeal for me. People often develop deep interests in particular subjects, whether it be cars, sports, food, or countless other passions. History is no different. Many people are drawn to studying the past, but they often gravitate towards very different eras or regions depending on what resonates with them the most. Among history enthusiasts, interests can range widely. Ancient civilizations, classic antiquity, the Middle Ages, or the modern era. For me, my fascination centers on a very specific window of time, roughly from 1870 to 1918. This period begins with the Franco-Prussian War and the rise of unified Germany and Italy, and ends with the First World War and the collapse of several of the world's largest empires. While everyone has their own reasons for favoring a particular era, I like to explain what makes this time frame especially compelling to me and why I've spent so many hours studying it. First reason is a completely new scale of human activity. Between 1870 and 1918, the world experienced changes on a scale never before seen in human history. Advances in technology, industry, and transportation allowed production and expansion to occur at unprecedented rates. Global population surged, and nearly every region of the world was affected. Only a century earlier, a city with 20,000 inhabitants would be considered very large. By this era, cities 5 times that size and far larger were emerging rapidly. Places like New York City, for example, grew at an astonishing rate. One particular striking example of this expansion can be seen in military production. I collect military surplus from this period, and it's remarkable how many weapons were produced, often hundreds of thousands or even millions of a single model, using quality materials and skilled craftsmanship. Warfare itself had transformed, whereas earlier conflicts, like the Napoleonic Wars and the Battle of Waterloo, involved hundreds of thousands of soldiers at most. Battles during the First World War would easily involve millions of individuals. This scale of human mobilization was entirely new and unprecedented. At the same time, vast numbers of societies and cultures were absorbed into the expanding empires. Groups that had once lived in relative isolation were suddenly integrated into larger political systems. Thousands of distinct cultures were pulled into global power structures, creating complex political, economic, and cross cultural interactions that shape the world that we live in today directly. My second reason is examining the changing attitudes and how it contributes to the birth of our modern world. Another reason this era fascinates me is the mindset of the people who lived through it. When we look back at history, especially at primary sources, it's easy to judge past societies by modern standards. Yet, future generations will likely judge our own beliefs just as critically. By reading primary sources from this period, it becomes clear that the people at the time were not blindly accepting everything around them. Many expressed doubts, concerns, and even outright opposition to the events unfolding in the world. Still, their fundamental assumptions about religion, social hierarchy, aristocracy, and authority were very different from those that we hold today. Although their writing and beliefs can feel distant or unfamiliar, there is a deeply human connection that remains. These were real people grappling with rapid change, uncertainty, and moral questions, much like we do now, just within a different cultural framework. My third reason was that this was the beginning of the first truly connected world. This period marks the first time in human history when nearly the entire world became interconnected, that we know of. Advances in transportation, communication, medicine, and military power allowed a select few empires to reach regions that had all but been previously isolated. Many societies were forcibly drawn into global Western-dominated system. Thousands of tribes and cultures that once operated independently were suddenly required to adapt to a modern, industrialized, capitalized world. The scale of this transformation was unprecedented, and its effects are still felt today. Where once there had been immense diversity shaped by geography and isolation, much of the world now operated within a broadly European or Western framework. This shift fundamentally altered cultures, economies, and ways of life across the Americas, Africa, and Asia. In conclusion, my interest in the 1870-1918, also known as the Age of Imperialism, comes from its immense significance in shaping the modern world. It represents the first time in humanity of which population growth, industrial production, and global connection grew at such an unprecedented scale. It marks the transition from older, more formal ways of thinking to the foundations of modern attitudes and institutions, even beyond the previous Age of Enlightenment. At the same time, it was a deeply violent era marked by exploitation and suffering on a global scale. Understanding both its achievements and its consequences is essential to understanding how our world came to be the way that it is today. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and please like and subscribe for more historical discussions and overviews. Thank you.